Welcome back, everyone, to Faith for Dummies.
Hi everyone, how you doing? How are you doing, Izzie?
I am doing well, thank you. Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. A bit hungry, but that's about normal.
It's gone lunchtime actually. I've not eaten any lunch.
Well,
I know what I need to do after this.
Not enough.
So, as this is how we always start, Rob, do you have any dummy moments this week?
Not that I can think of. Doesn't mean to say there hasn't been any, but not that I come to mind. What about you, Izzie?
Well, that's a good thing. That's encouraging. I had a bit of a dummy moment yesterday night. I was making what they call like potato wedges, and I love paprika, so I covered them in loads of paprika, put them in the oven, got them out, picked one up to eat, and I was like, oh, that's a bit spicy. What's going on there? And I checked the bottle that I had used, like the jar, and I realised it was paprika, but it was hot paprika. So it felt like I'd covered my potato wedges in chili powder, and I was like, I don't know how to get around this. I covered them in mayonnaise. I used gravy, which some people will disagree with, but KFC gravy is one of my favourite things. So I was like, ooh, a spicy chip and some regular gravy might make like KFC gravy. It did not.
No. Oh, that is funny. Did you eat them?
I did eat some of them, but it was very sad, and I had been really looking forward to them. So I'm going to have to try again today, but make them properly. I might throw away the hot paprika because we don't need it.
Here's something that we've not scripted. Did you know that paprika is just red pepper?
I did. I found that out recently. It's dried red pepper, like ground up.
Yeah, I know. I've only found that out recently. Crazy, eh?
Wow.
It's so good,
there we
isn't
go. I mean, who was I talking to recently? I told somebody recently that a pickle was just a cucumber, and they were like, what? So
Yeah, I only found that a few years ago as well. Maybe we should become a food podcast. Maybe not, actually.
Oh, I'd love to be a food podcast. Anyway, what are we going to actually talk about this week,
Anyway,
Rob?
yeah. So last week, well, that was fun, wasn't it? Last week we talked about praying to God when we don't know what to say. That was a good one, wasn't it? So this week we're going to look at, is it okay to doubt God? So let's go straight in. Izzie, I'm going to throw you straight under the bus. Any thoughts to this?
It's a good question. Is it okay to doubt God? Yes, I think. End of podcast.
Yeah, end the podcast. We can go home and while I'm home, have lunch. I agree too.
Yeah, I mean, we're human and we doubt stuff all the time, and like our faith and believing in God is a lot of unseen stuff, right? So we're only human.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a saying which I find really useful, which is there's a difference between doubting your beliefs and believing your doubts. There's a difference between doubting your beliefs and believing your doubts. And the whole Christian faith comes down to this guy Jesus and then coming back to life on the third day. No other human has ever done that. So, of course, the human side of us is going to be like, well, how is that? Did that really happen? Like, do you ever feel similar?
Yeah, no, I think it's a massive thing to believe. Like, somebody died and came back to life, and that's only the start of it all. I think I grew up in a non-Christian home, so I learned a truth that was God didn't exist, basically. And so learning about Jesus as a teenager was really hard to believe. And I had lots of times, especially in the first kind of few years, but still now, like where I really doubted it. Is it actually true? What am I believing? What am I giving my life to? And especially now, like I work for a church, I'm a youth leader. Like I'm giving my whole life to believing in this thing. That's crazy sometimes when you're struggling to believe it. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's helpful to doubt. There's a quote that's come from somewhere, which is that doubt is not the opposite of faith. It's part of growing faith. So doubting is not the opposite. Yeah, like it's part of growing in your faith. If you never ask questions, you never doubt anything, you won't grow. And another encouragement, again, someone somewhere said, is that if you're doubting, don't run away from God, but bring those doubts to him. I think, like, people always used to tell me, like, God is big enough to contain your doubts.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I agree with everything you've said and find them useful as well. And with this, I mean, I can tell you lots of reasons why Jesus existed. He was a real man and human on this earth. And did you know that there's more historical evidence out there that Jesus was alive than evidence for Julius Caesar, Izzy?
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't quite know that, but I did know that there is a lot of evidence. Like, there's more evidence about Jesus than there is about some of the historical things we learn about at school.
Yeah, exactly. And historians would have no reason to deny Jesus existing. Also, what can help is knowing how we can believe that the New Testament, so the second half of the Bible, the New Testament, is how believable it is. So there's this interesting thing where you can identify different versions of the texts of the New Testament and to see how similar they are, to understand how likely it was to be real and therefore not change. It's a bit complicated, but it's called textual criticism.
Okay.
Sorry, my bad. And it looks at the dates between the first copy, the first original text and the earliest copy, and basically, the closer the gap is, the more believable it is, and also. The gap between the earliest copies they have is between 170 and 450 years. And the reason why it's a range is because the New Testament was written over a range of time as well. So I think, and I personally was like, 450 years, that's quite a lot. But actually, historians see that as not a very long time at all. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? And there are loads more historical books out there that have bigger age gaps that we wouldn't dispute. And also, also there'll be other copies of other books that maybe like only a handful, like 10 or so, but there are over, this is crazy, there's over 24,600 manuscripts that they have of the New Testament.
Wow.
So we can be confident in the accuracy and the authenticity in the New Testament. So there's a history lesson for you. Sorry if you don't like history. What do you think about that, Izzy?
Wow, I did not like history at school, just FYI. But that's really interesting. It's really helpful to know, I think, where people are often like, the Bible is just made up. And actually, to be able to say, no, historians actually agree with this. Like, they actually think that this is a real book that was really written. That's really helpful.
Yeah, and then so maybe for a conversation, a podcast another time would be to explore like who Jesus was. But another important question we can ask ourselves is what do we do when we're doubting? Like and what I try and do is I like to remember that I'm not the only one who is doubting, and I would talk to someone wiser than myself because I'm a dummy, hence the name of this podcast, and I try and understand what they had to say. So perhaps, Izzy, if I came to you and said, I've been doubting my faith recently. I know. What would you say to me, perhaps?
Well, I'm honoured that you think I'm wiser than you. It's very untrue. I think when people say those kinds of things to me, I always ask, like, what is it about God that you're doubting? Because often it's not necessarily, like, for some people it is the accuracy of the history and all that kind of stuff, and actually there's books and stuff that can help you with that. But maybe is it, is God actually, is he good? Does he care about me? I'm going through some stuff that is really difficult. Does he even care? Actually, the reassurance there is, like, lots of people are experiencing the things that you're experiencing. And God 100% cares about you. He completely, wholeheartedly loves you. And if you're struggling with doubting that kind of thing, then I'd want to pray with you, and I'd want to tell you to pray and talk to God and be honest with him. But yeah, if it's more that you're struggling to believe in what God did, or, how he created the world, or what Jesus did on the cross, I think the first port of call is just taking those things to God. He is so big and powerful. He can absolutely take those doubts from us. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a youth leader as well, and if someone approached me and said that, I'd pretty much say exactly the same things that you're saying. Really, I'd want to journey alongside that person, so check in on them. That's the only probably thing I'd add. But another thing that we can do is that we can look at what the Bible tells us.
Great idea.
About doubting. So I'll try and move away from my history lesson for us all. But I've got some bits from the Bible. One was someone called Thomas. He was one of Jesus' disciples, and he was also known as Doubting Thomas. And the reason that was is because Jesus had died and he had been resurrected, come back to life. And Thomas had decided that he will not believe that Jesus was alive until he can physically put his hands into Jesus' wounds that made him hang on that cross and physically see Jesus. Now, Jesus had already appeared to his disciples, and they were telling Thomas, because Thomas wasn't at that meeting, and yet he still refused to believe it. So then that happens. Then Jesus actually comes and shows himself to Thomas, and he's like, wow. And if you want to read a bit more about that, that's in around John chapter 20. But there are also other stories in the Old Testament. There's this guy called Gideon, and God wants to use Gideon to turn the tide against Israel's oppressors, and that's a podcast for another time. But Gideon doubted that God could use him to do it, and he tested God. He said, he's doubting. I'm going to test you, God. I'm going to lay this fleece out on the ground, and I'll just so I can make sure that you're real, make sure that it's all that you really want to use me. I want the fleece to be wet and the grass that it's on to be dry. God did that. I think that would probably be enough proof for me, because that would not be something that you would expect to happen. But Gideon, he goes further. He says, "No, thank you, but I can't. I want it again. So this time, can you do? And this time, can you make the fleece dry, but the grass really wet?" And he challenges God to provide proof of his reliability through these miracles before he would believe. And thankfully, God humoured him. And through Gideon, God was able to lead the Israelites to victory. And finally, just quickly, there is an older couple in the Old Testament called Abraham and Sarah. And they're quite important figures in the Old Testament.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, just a bit. And they follow God faithfully. And they're really old and they've got no kids. And God says, you're going to have a son. And Abraham falls down on the floor laughing and says to himself, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? But they doubted God, and God then blessed them with a son, Isaac. And in that time, Abraham's trust in God had grown so great that he was even willing to sacrifice his son Isaac if God asked him to. That probably is another podcast, another time again. Yeah. But there you go. I think sometimes we can really relate to these Bible characters, and it can reassure us.
Yeah, while you were saying that, actually, I was thinking, you were talking about Thomas, and I was like, yep, I am just like Thomas. I've told God I don't believe in him unless he shows me who he is. And then I've also been like Gideon and wanted God to prove himself. And then I've also been like Sarah and Abraham and not trusted that God's promises will come true. So yeah. I feel really, called out by some of that. So yeah, let's just...
Oh, well, it wasn't done deliberately.
Let's just sum up what we've spoken about. So we've talked about how the New Testament is sound as a document, like it's a historical document that historians can agree existed. There were people in the Bible that doubted, and God still loved them and showed them who he was. Basically, that it's a normal part of life to doubt God, and there's a big difference between, like you said, I think, doubting your beliefs and believing your doubts. That's a big difference. It's okay to have doubts, and I think you, Rob, would really encourage people to talk to their friends about it, talk to your mentors, your youth leaders, people at church, your parents. It's okay to explore this stuff. You don't have to just bottle it all up and believe what somebody at church says. You can really explore that stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it's been a really interesting podcast to research and record for this one. So hopefully you have enjoyed it. Listeners, and shall we end with a question to all of our listeners?
Yes, let's do it. So the question we'd like you to think about this week is, has there been a time in your life where you've doubted God? And has something happened that helped you to kind of get past those doubts? I think basically asking you, like, have you got an encouragement where you've doubted God and then he's kind of shown you that you don't need to be doubting him? And maybe you could share that with someone this week.
Yeah, good question. So thank you very much for listening. We will see you next week. Before I reveal to you, or perhaps before Izzie reveals to you what we're looking at next week, we also wanted to tell you that we have an email now in case you wanted to tell us some of the things that you want to look at. Because obviously,
how exciting.
I know, an email address, how wild. And we want you to have your say of what you want us to talk to. So I'm going to say it now, but don't worry if you don't catch it because it'll be written down somewhere. But our email is, if I get this right, faithfordummies@gmail.com. Brilliant. So, Izzie, why don't you tell us what we're looking at next week?
Yeah, so next week we are going to think about, should I tell my friends about Jesus? So if that's a question you've ever had or a question about how to do it, come back next week. And we'll see you there. Bye, everyone.
Great. Good question. Bye-bye, everyone.